Last Tuesday, I got a text from my bank. $247 charged at Bella Vista restaurant. I smiled, thinking my wife was treating her girlfriends. Then I called the restaurant to compliment their service. Your wife and her gentleman friend seemed so happy, they said. My world shattered. My name is George, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. At 34, I was living what most people would call a decent life. Steady job as an accountant at Morrison & Associates, nice suburban house with a white picket fence, and a wife who still turned heads when she walked into a room. Lisa and I had been married for 4 years, and while we never had kids, I always told myself we were just waiting for the right time. Looking back now, I realize I was waiting for a lot of things that were never going to come. The cracks in our marriage had been showing for months, but I was too blind, or maybe too stubborn, to see them. Lisa had started complaining about everything. Our routine was boring. Our life was predictable. She felt trapped and needed excitement. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield, where one wrong word would trigger another lecture about how suffocating our marriage had become. But here's the thing about being a nice guy. You internalize everything. When your wife tells you she's unhappy, you don't question whether she's the problem. You assume you are. So I did what I always did. I tried harder. I bought her flowers for no reason, planned surprise date nights, even suggested we take that European vacation she'd been talking about for years. But nothing seemed to work. Lisa would smile, say thank you, and then find something else to complain about the next day. It was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much effort I poured in, it was never enough. Then, about 2 months ago, everything changed. Lisa came home from work practically glowing, talking about how she'd reconnected with some old college friends on social media. Suddenly, she had plans every weekend. Girls' nights became a regular thing. She'd spend hours getting ready, trying on different outfits, doing her makeup like she was going to a red carpet event instead of casual drinks with friends. But I was happy for her. Finally, something was bringing joy back into her life. Being the supportive husband I thought I was, I encouraged these outings. When Lisa mentioned feeling bad about always asking her friends to cover her drinks, I handed over my backup credit card without hesitation. Just have fun, I told her, kissing her forehead as she headed out the door in a dress I hadn't seen her wear in months. You deserve to enjoy yourself. She'd light up, give me a quick kiss, and promise she wouldn't go crazy with spending. I trusted her completely. The red flags were there. God, they were practically screaming at me. But I ignored every single one. Lisa would come home at 2 a.m., smelling like expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Her phone became permanently glued to her hand, and she'd flip it face down whenever I walked into the room. She started buying new lingerie, claiming she just wanted to feel good about herself, but I never saw any of it. Her stories about these mysterious college friends were always vague. No names, no specific details, just the girls, this, and the girls that. But I convinced myself this was normal. This was what marriage looked like after 4 years. People needed space, right? They needed interests outside their relationship. I was being the understanding, supportive husband every marriage counselor talks about. I was giving her room to breathe, to rediscover herself, to find that excitement she'd been craving. What I didn't realize was that while I was busy being the perfect husband, my wife was busy being someone else's perfect girlfriend. And she was using my money to do it. The moment that shattered my world came on a Tuesday afternoon at 3:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was staring at my phone screen in disbelief when my assistant knocked on my office door. The bank alert was simple enough. Card ending in 4792 charged $247.83 at Bella Vista restaurant. At first, I actually smiled. Lisa was treating her friends to a nice lunch at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Maybe she was celebrating something. A promotion, a birthday. Who knew? I felt proud that my wife was generous with her friends, but something nagged at me. $247 seemed excessive, even for a fancy girl's lunch. Bella Vista was the kind of place where you proposed to someone, not where you grabbed casual food with college friends. The more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I became. By the time I left work, that nagging feeling had grown into a full-blown knot in my stomach. I tried to shake it off during my drive home. I was being paranoid, overthinking things like I always did. Lisa would come home with stories about the amazing lunch, maybe even feeling guilty about spending so much. We'd laugh about it, and I'd tell her it was fine, that she deserved to splurge once in a while. But when I walked through our front door and saw Lisa sitting on the couch, still in her work clothes, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened, my blood ran cold. "Hey, honey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "How was lunch with the girls?" Lisa looked up, and for just a split second I saw something flicker across her face. Fear? Guilt? But it was gone so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. "Lunch?" she said, tilting her head. "Oh, we didn't end up going. Sarah had to work late, so we postponed." The knot in my stomach exploded into pure ice. "Really? That's weird, because I got a charge notification from Bella Vista this afternoon." Now there was no mistaking the panic in her eyes. Lisa's face went pale, and she fumbled with her phone, nearly dropping it. "Oh, right, that. I went by myself. Just to treat myself, you know? I've been so stressed lately." Her laugh sounded forced, brittle. Probably shouldn't have spent so much, but the lobster looked amazing. Every instinct I had was screaming that she was lying, but I wanted so desperately to believe her that I nodded and smiled. "Of course, babe. You deserve it." But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Lisa's steady breathing, staring at the ceiling, replaying that conversation over and over. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 4 years of marriage. I called Bella Vista. My hands were shaking as I dialed, and my voice cracked when the hostess answered. I told her I'd been there yesterday and thought I might have left my watch. Could she check with the staff? "Of course, sir. Let me ask around. Can you describe your table? Were you the gentleman with the beautiful blonde woman around lunchtime?" My heart stopped. "Yes," I managed to whisper. "Oh, you two made such a lovely couple. The way you were holding hands across the table. So romantic. Marco, our sommelier, even mentioned how happy you both looked. Let me check the lost and found." The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered to the floor. A couple, holding hands, romantic. While I was sitting in my office, proud of my generous wife, she was playing house with another man, using my money, at the most romantic restaurant in the city. When I picked up the phone, the hostess was still talking. "Sir, are you there? I'm afraid we don't have any watches, but if you'd like to call back later—" I hung up without saying another word. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely function. 4 years of marriage, and my wife was cheating on me. Not just cheating, flaunting it. Living a double life with my credit card as her funding source. The woman I'd loved, trusted, supported, was making a fool of me every single day. That's when the real investigation began. And what I found made that first lie look like child's play. I became a man possessed. Every lunch break, every moment Lisa was out of the house, I was digging deeper into our financial records, our phone bills, anything that could give me answers. What I found was a pattern so methodical, so calculated, it made me physically sick. Every single girls' night over the past 2 months corresponded to expensive charges at romantic restaurants, wine bars, even a boutique hotel lounge. The amounts ranged from $180 to $300, and they were always on nights when I was working late or out of town. But the real gut punch came when I found Lisa's old iPad hidden in her closet. She'd forgotten about it after getting her new one for Christmas. My Christmas gift to her, ironically. When I powered it up, it was still logged into her iMessage account. And there, in black and white, was everything I needed to know about my wife's secret life. The messages went back 3 months. 3 months of "I miss you so much, baby," and "Can't wait to feel your arms around me again," and "George is working late tonight." Perfect timing. The contact name was just R with a heart emoji, but I knew exactly who it was. Ryan, her college boyfriend. The same Ryan she'd told me was just a friend when they reconnected on Facebook. The same Ryan she claimed was happily married with kids and totally harmless. I read every message, torturing myself with each intimate detail. They'd been planning their affair for months, and I'd been funding every romantic dinner, every bottle of champagne, every moment of their rekindled love story. But the message that nearly made me throw the iPad against the wall was from last week. "Thanks for dinner last night, gorgeous. Romano's is becoming our special place. I love how you always know exactly what to order with George's money." My hands were shaking so violently I could barely scroll, but I kept reading. There were photos, too. Lisa, in lingerie I'd never seen. Selfies of them together at restaurants I recognized from our credit card statements. Pictures of her wearing the diamond necklace I'd bought her for our anniversary while she was in Ryan's arms. My wife wasn't just cheating on me, she was documenting it, celebrating it, rubbing my face in it without me even knowing. The breaking point came when I found their conversation from that morning. Lisa had texted, "George is working late again tonight. Perfect opportunity for Romano's? I'm craving their lobster ravioli." Ryan's response made my blood boil. "Can't wait, beautiful. I'll make sure to order the expensive wine again. I love how generous your husband is with our date nights." They were laughing at me, actually laughing at how stupid, how gullible, how pathetic I was. While I was sitting in my office, working overtime to pay for their romantic escapades, they were planning their next betrayal and joking about what an idiot I was for funding it. Something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Like a rubber band stretched too far, I felt this sudden, violent release of 4 years of being the understanding husband. 4 years of putting Lisa's happiness before my own. 4 years of being taken for granted. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was furious, and for the first time in my life, I was going to do something about it. I didn't confront Lisa that night. I didn't scream, didn't break things, didn't have the dramatic meltdown she probably deserved to witness. Instead, I sat in my home office, staring at those messages, and made a decision that would change everything. I was done being the victim in my own life. I was done being the punchline to their sick joke. If Lisa wanted to play games with my money and my trust, then we were going to play by my rules from now on. The plan came to me like a lightning bolt. It was simple, elegant, and perfectly legal. Lisa had no idea I'd discovered her affair, which meant she'd continue with business as usual. Thursday was their regular date night at Romano's. I could see it in their message pattern. She'd ask for the credit card, claim it was another girls' night, and go off to spend my money on her boyfriend like she had been for months. But this Thursday would be different. This Thursday, I would be there. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I moved most of our savings into a separate account that only I could access. I documented every fraudulent charge, every lie, every message that proved her infidelity. I even bought a new suit. If I was going to destroy my marriage, I was going to look good doing it. Most importantly, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would handle myself when the moment came. No yelling, no dramatic scenes. Just cold, calculated justice. Thursday morning arrived, and Lisa played her part perfectly. She came down to breakfast in her robe, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and mentioned that the girls wanted to try that new sushi place downtown. Could I borrow your card? I promise I won't go crazy with the spending. Looking at her face, so innocent, so convincing, I almost admired her acting skills. Of course, honey, I said, handing over the credit card with a smile. Have fun. You deserve it. She beamed at me. Actually beamed, probably thinking about how easy it was to manipulate her stupid husband. I love you, George. You're the best husband a girl could ask for. If she only knew that in 8 hours, her world would come crashing down just like mine had. I arrived at Romano's at 7:30 p.m. and requested a table with a view of the entire restaurant. The hostess, the same one I'd spoken to on the phone, seated me perfectly. From my vantage point, I could see everything while remaining mostly hidden behind a decorative column. I ordered a scotch, neat, and waited. They walked in at exactly 8:15 p.m., just like their messages had planned. Lisa looked stunning in a red dress I'd never seen before. Probably bought with my money, I realized with bitter irony. Ryan was tall, athletic, everything you'd expect from a college quarterback turned successful business owner. They looked perfect together, holding hands, laughing, completely absorbed in each other's company. For a moment, I understood why Lisa had chosen him over me. Then I remembered they were spending my money, and that moment of understanding evaporated into pure rage. I watched them for 20 minutes, watched Ryan pull out Lisa's chair, order an expensive bottle of wine, lean across the table to whisper things that made her giggle like a teenager. I watched my wife of 4 years be happier with another man than she'd ever been with me. And I watched them toast to their future, together with champagne that cost more than most people's weekly salary. That's when I made my move. I stood up, straightened my new tie, and walked directly to their table. The look on Lisa's face when she saw me will be burned into my memory forever. Pure terror, like she'd seen a ghost. Ryan just looked confused, probably wondering who this stranger was, interrupting their romantic dinner. Mind if I join you? I asked, pulling out the empty chair at their table before either of them could respond. George! Lisa stammered, her face going from red to white in seconds. What are you… how did you… Funny story, I said, settling into my chair and signaling the waiter. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by for dinner. Imagine my surprise when I saw my wife here with her friend. Ryan had figured it out by now. Look, man, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Oh, there's been a misunderstanding, all right, I interrupted, my voice calm and steady. But it's not what you think. I turned to the approaching waiter. I'll have the lobster thermidor, please. The most expensive bottle of champagne you have. And put it all on this card. I placed my credit card on the table. The same card Lisa had been using to fund their affair. George, please, Lisa whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. Not here. Let's go home and talk about this. Talk? I laughed, and it was a sound I'd never heard myself make before. Cold, bitter, completely devoid of humor. We're past talking, Lisa. We're past a lot of things. The waiter returned with my champagne. I poured myself a glass and raised it in a toast. To honesty, to loyalty, to getting exactly what you pay for. That's when Lisa lost it. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward, her face twisted with rage and desperation. You have no right to do this. You have no right to embarrass me like this. Embarrass you? I stood up slowly, my voice still eerily calm. Lisa, you've been fucking your ex-boyfriend with my money for 3 months. You've been lying to my face every single day, using my trust to fund your affair, laughing about what an idiot I am behind my back. And you're worried about being embarrassed. Ryan tried to stand, probably thinking he could defuse the situation, but I held up my hand. Sit down, Ryan. We're not done here. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Every eye was on us, but I didn't care anymore. This moment had been building for months, and there was no stopping it now. You want to know what embarrassing is? I continued, my voice getting louder. Embarrassing is finding out your wife has been texting her lover about how generous her stupid husband is. Embarrassing is discovering that while I was working overtime to pay for your happiness, you were using that money to rebuild your relationship with another man. Embarrassing is realizing that I've been the punchline to your sick joke for months. Lisa's tears were flowing freely now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her like I had so many times before. George, I can explain. Explain what? How you're in love with someone else? How you've been using me as your personal ATM while you figured out your feelings? How you were going to keep this going until you decided which life you wanted more? I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Here's the thing, Lisa. This game is over, and you lost. With 3 quick taps, I canceled the credit card. The same card they'd planned to use to pay for their romantic dinner. The same card that had funded months of their secret relationship. Gone. What did you just do? Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. I took back control of my life, I said, putting my phone away. The card is canceled. The account is frozen. Consider this your official notice that the Bank of George is permanently closed. Ryan finally found his voice. Look, George, I know this looks bad, but nothing. I turned to face him directly for the first time. You knew she was married. You knew she was using her husband's money to wine and dine you. You knew, and you didn't care. So don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was some innocent rekindling of old friendship. The waiter appeared beside our table, looking extremely uncomfortable. Sir? There seems to be an issue with your card. I smiled. The first genuine smile I'd felt in months. That would be because it's been canceled. You'll need to charge the bill to one of my dining companions here. I'm sure they'll be happy to cover it. Lisa's face went white. George, I don't have enough cash for this. Please, you can't just... Can't just what? Can't just leave you with the consequences of your choices? Can't just stop enabling your affair? Can't just refuse to pay for your boyfriend's dinner one more time? I reached into my wallet and pulled out a $20 bill. This is for my champagne. The rest is on you two. I placed the money on the table and stood up. Consider it a wedding gift for your future together. Lisa grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. George, wait. Please. I know I messed up, but we can work through this. I love you. I made a mistake. But I love you. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her tear-stained face. For just a moment, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with 5 years ago. The woman I'd married, supported, trusted completely. The woman who'd just spent 3 months systematically destroying everything we'd built together. I gently removed her hand from my arm. No, Lisa. You love the security I provided. You love having someone to fall back on while you explored your options. You love having a safety net while you figured out your feelings for Ryan. But you don't love me. If you loved me, none of this would have happened. I looked at Ryan, who was staring at the table like he wanted to disappear. Good luck paying for dinner. And good luck paying for everything else from now on. With that, I walked away from my wife, my marriage, and the biggest mistake of my life. That was 6 months ago. The divorce was finalized last month, and it was easier than I expected. When your spouse has been systematically documenting their affair in text messages, there's not much room for negotiation. Lisa got nothing except her freedom and a valuable lesson about the consequences of betrayal. I heard through mutual friends that she and Ryan lasted exactly 3 more weeks after that dinner. Turns out, when you build a relationship on deception and someone else's money, it doesn't have much foundation. Ryan apparently wasn't quite as generous with his own credit card as he was with mine. Lisa ended up moving back in with her parents, and last I heard, she was working at a coffee shop trying to rebuild her life from scratch. As for me, I'm living my best life. I bought a new house, smaller than our old one, but it's mine and mine alone. I started working out, picked up photography as a hobby, and joined a hiking club where I met Sarah. She's nothing like Lisa. Honest, independent, funny, and she's never once asked to borrow my credit card. We're taking things slow, but for the first time in years, I'm excited about the future. But you know what the best part is? I learned something valuable that night at Romano's. I learned that respect isn't given, it's demanded. I learned that being a nice guy doesn't mean being a doormat. I learned that sometimes the most expensive lesson is the one that teaches you your own worth. Every time I take Sarah out for dinner now, I pay with cash. Not because I don't trust her, I do, completely. But because every time I hand over those bills, I remember the night I took control of my life and stopped letting other people spend my money on their happiness while I got nothing in return. Lisa taught me a lot about love, trust, and marriage. Just not the lessons she intended to teach. And for that education, as painful as it was, I'm actually grateful. Because the man who walked out of Romano's that night was stronger, smarter, and more self-aware than the fool who'd been funding his wife's affair for 3 months. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's getting better. And brother, I got so much better that I'm almost thankful my cheating wife showed me exactly what I was worth. Almost.